Saswat Bandhopadhyay has over 25 years of experience in the urban development sector in South Asia with a focus on climate resilient and sustainable urban development, nature-based solutions, inclusive, green and affordable built environment in cities. Saswat has spearheaded several climate risk informed spatial planning related research projects such as sustainable urban development and smart cities, regional climate variability studies, risk informed urban development, and regulation for strengthening green and resilient urban forum and housing in urban areas. Sashwat is also engaged in rollout of national urban capacity development programs on local area planning and town planning schemes, green, inclusive and affordable housing policy, landscape and sustainable urban infrastructure and nature-based solutions.
Hello, sir, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manju. Thank you, Professor Khatri, Professor Hina, and all the co-organizers. Thank you very much for inviting. So let me share my screen. I have a short presentation. So to let me know if you can see the. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Manju. Thank you, fellow colleagues and participants of this very important dialogue today on urban villages. And for my talk today, I have taken a slight liberty in expanding the villages in the peripheral areas and their importance in our cities, and how, when we are discussing about resilience, sustainability of our cities, how peripheral villages, the expansion that are happening in immediate vicinity of a core urban area, why are they important, and what are the tools that we have to manage, and what are the opportunity and challenges. As you know, we are in the forefront of urbanization trajectory, and more people are moving from villages to the urban areas. There is a rapid increase in transboundary activity, interdependency in the regional resource transfer, and so on. And this is all we know. But what is very scary as the discourse is going on, that what would be next 25 years trajectory of India's urban development. And some of you already know that there are a lot of deliberation happening around India at 2047. In 2011 census, close to about 37 crore people were living in urban area. But even this amount, the volume of population constituted about 11% of the global urban population. This is very significant. And there are a lot of projections by United Nations. There are also projections by various other agencies are showing that our population is expected to, the urban population is expected to double close to about 800 million. Imagine this was, we had in 2011 close to about 37 crore, and what we are expecting, 37 crore, about 7,900 towns and cities, to about 80 crore over 2,000 settlement, almost double in next 25 years. And this is also because our urban economy is urban oriented. So there are like some assessment done by KPMG and some other agencies indicating that economy size of India could also go about 15 to 20 trillion. Presently, close to about 3 point some trillion present. So, I mean, we are now seeing a kind of a rapid acceleration in our trajectory, both in terms of urbanization and economic growth, and thereby, ensuring safety, sustainability of future Indian cities will be key. More and more pericene development, and this is what I am trying to link my presentation today, that, whenever we are seeing an urban agglomeration, the villages which are located immediate periphery of an urban growth center. And there are a lot of transformation taking in these places. Sorry, just give me a second. I think it's got stuck.
Sir, I think you are on mute.
Yeah, what we are expecting is that land cover of most Indian cities are going to at least double or triple over the next 3-4 decades. And this is what is quite scary, as we see that many Indian cities are following the footstep of many cities which are in America, South America, and that other close places. I don't know why this is. Is it moving now? Sorry about it. Manju, can you just let me know?
Yeah, the slides are moving now.
Okay, thank you. So we get to see this form of peri-urbanization. I mean, this is very common. Some of you already know in South American context, there's a large expansion of the urban periphery. But this is also happening in India. I mean, if you look at through geospatial assessment, through Google Images, you could see that this is on corner. This is Salt Lake, Kolkata, and then just after the plant boundary ends, and you see this kind of expansion taking place. Same with when you look at Chandigarh, Nagpur, or any Indian cities. Recently, World Resource Institute has, sorry about this image quality of this particular slide. So very recently an expansion was done and a kind of an analysis was done on urban expansion by World Resource Institute through geospatial data, and it shows like many of our large cities are growing close to about 40 to 50 square kilometer every year towards the periphery, towards the agricultural land and the villages in and around. Mumbai kind of an exception, but most of them. This is we are presently we're doing some analysis in city of Kochi, and it's very similar trend. It goes to the hinterland, the converting the peripheral villages, and this is mind-boggling. I mean, this is city of Hyderabad, and you can see from the core of Hussain Sagar, if you go down to the periphery, it's more than we are talking about 15 minutes city. ADB, Asian Development Bank, talked about half an hour, 1 hour circle. And when you see cities going at this kind of an expansion, it becomes very, very difficult. Managing this peripheral expansion, also providing them with kind of a decent services, housing, and related. This is a very interesting case where I am leading a team where we are giving a proposal for already given a proposal for management of an upper lake, a large lake in Bhopal, which is the lake area is very ecologically very rich, large amount of biodiversity, and water area is close to about 36 square kilometer. But what happens, it also attracts large amount of avifauna and other amount of flora in this. But as it happens, that this lake is one of the, if you compare any other urban lakes, I mean, this is one of the very large lake after Srinagar Dal Lake, close to about 35 square kilometer. But what happens here is that this is, as you can see, that as the city grows, and this is the kind of a timeline, you get to see how the city of Bhopal start growing, and then you see the oranges in the peripheral catchment. These are villages slowly start becoming a peri-urban shape. It's very similar to the development. What you can see the background of Manju, a very kind of a very unplanned kind of settlement, unserviced settlement starts cropping up. And these are the areas which are highly vulnerable. No planning regulation. The master plan people, the people who comes with the statutory plan, they generally, that this is an mind-boggling administrative complexities. You have a municipal boundary, which is in the yellow. Then this is Bhopal Development Authority boundary. And then two other colors are district boundary. What happens here is that 35 square kilometer of lake area is fed by close to about 360 square kilometer of catchment area. And those have 100 living villages. And there is no planning framework, like they attempted some master plan or statutory plan. As you see, this is a typical, what we call is a master plan of a city. The plan doesn't talk anything about the catchment. It talks about the other side and other part of it, leaving the peripheral villages extremely vulnerable to this change. And what I call is, that death by 1,000 cuts. Slowly, you can encroach upon, build your farmhouse, and then start converting in this. And what happens here is that your catchment area characteristics gets, change very quickly. And this is not only Bhopal. I'm just showing a case because I'm also working in Kolkata. Very similar kind of an experiences from East Kolkata wetland. It's a very, very, kind of a very slow, kind of quiet process of transforming this, and then the lake is not available anymore. And that's what the challenge that we are talking about today, because we are also, when our cities are forefront of climatic vulnerabilities, and both cities are at the site where we are producing greenhouse gas emission. At the same time, we are at the forefront of these vulnerabilities. Now, we are doing some assessment in city of Ahmedabad, looking at how the build has grown for over last 10, 20 years. And these assessments have become much more easier now with their availability, access to a lot of geospatial data. And as you see, the built up, which is demarcated in red, has actually been increased. There's a tremendous pace. And where is other the vegetation cover, the agriculture peripheral land, which has actually gone. And this has now translated a kind of increase in the land surface temperature. This year particularly, Ahmedabad has been even, because as you know, there are two kinds of, like the three temperatures we generally consider. One is called land surface temperature. There is the dry bulb temperature and the wet bulb temperature. The land surface temperature has increased quite significantly, and Ahmedabad, because it has this phenomena in the evening, the temperature coming down because close proximity to the coast, this is not happening. Even at 11 o'clock in the night, temperature is not dropping, going down below 35, 36 degrees. Morning, daytime, which is about 46, 47 degrees. Now, this is the kind of clear indication of this change. And as you can see, a lot of assessments, some of you are interested, can also download this from Think Hazard. Think Hazard gives you a kind of a good access to open source data. A large part of our cities, large part of our Indian continent, subcontinent, and there's a huge exposure to severe heat and related. Now, there is a second part of it, that one is that we are vulnerable to climate change. And on the right graph, some of you are teaching in architecture colleges or landscape and urban planning. You're familiar with this, that when you change start changing the natural ground cover from, from grassland to a more impervious layer, there is also change in the local microclimatic and hydrological behavior. There's you're shifting. There is a continuous shifting. The surface runoff increases as we continue to pave the surface. There's also changes in the local microclimatic because the evapotranspiration possibilities of plants are not anymore. And this is what is we are also seeing a very peculiar trend in our cities and peripheral areas. And these are some of the city central towns which are never seen in flood. Now the flood durations have increased, both in terms of depth and also in terms of duration. These are some of these images for this. This is the peripheral area. This is called Malikarnai Karnai wetland in Chennai. And this is another, you see that this was earlier, this wetland was available for, the storm runoff or rain runoff, and then good biodiversity and groundwater recharge. But then there is an intermediate IT corridor which is disconnected and increase the city and enhance the, increase the vulnerability in terms of the cities at this. Just give me one more. I think there is some. I don't know why it's getting stuck again. Just give me a minute. Okay. So what we are seeing is a kind of a large spectrum of extreme weather events and also slow onset event. Extreme weather events like flash flooding, extreme rainfall, heat wave, drought, forest land and forest degradation. And on the other side, we are seeing that there is also, desertification and sea level rise and similar. And this is happening more and more. And as you all have a first time, in the IPCC discourses, the urban areas, the action in urban areas have been put forth as one of the strategies. And this is focusing on area of how do we shift from fossil energy to fossil fuel energy driven energy to more, alternate source of energy. The report of IPCC also has given emphasis on land use, industry, urban areas, building and transportation. And this is where I think there is a lot of opportunity for us to look at, because to maintain the urban ecological balance, we can't segregate an urban municipal area alone, because our water security, our food and other is also clearly depend on the linkages in the peripheral areas in this. Now, if you look at it, that when you are looking at it, what are the kind of spatial tools that are available to us to actually manage our peripheral urban expansion or maintaining that the growth kind of cities, what we are seeing in cities like Hyderabad or many other cities. In fact, when I was looking at Delhi, as per WRI assessment, is adding close to about 45-50 square kilometer every year. And I was just a few days ago, I was looking at the new master plan of Paris. The central Paris area is about 108 square kilometer. So I was joking to some of the planners in Delhi that every second year, every 2 years, you are adding one central Paris in the DDA boundary. And that's the kind of challenge. Now, we're expanding, we're changing the hydrology and other related. Now, one major important factor that I wanted to share with this August gathering, that traditionally our statutory urban planning tools are very chaotic in India. It varies from state to state. The nomenclature varies, scope and other thing. As a result, there is a significant amount of non-statutory planning tools, and a lot of other tools have emerged, and a kind of a sense of chaos prevailing today. If you see, go to Ahmedabad, Maharashtra, Mumbai, Madhya Pradesh, you see there is a lot of changes in this, and it's kind of plethora of tools. Somewhere it is a development plan, somewhere it is a master plan, somewhere it is one scale plan. Like these are some of this quality of plan. As you see, they are unable to manage because in urbanization processes are triggering two things. The core areas getting degenerated, and the peripheral areas are getting expanded. And this expansion is mainly coming from the peripheral village or agriculture and land. And these tools are quite inadequate for managing such growth in this. And as I said, there are a lot of challenges institutionally in terms of there is a clutter about who makes the urban plan. I come across many people blaming the municipal corporations for not making the plan. But in India, most of the state municipal corporation or urban local bodies don't have the power to make plan. It is generally done by Vikas Pradhikaran or a parastatal agencies and town planning and other things. There are another aspect which is just learned from DDA master plan. The literacy about what is the purpose of making a plan is pretty weak in India. I mean, for example, DDA master plan has received almost 33,000 comments and suggestions. And when TCPO people were analyzing and they were telling me about almost, that 80% are about general urban management comments, not really planning related comments. Like today there is no water, or tomorrow the waste was not lifted, and so on and so forth. The another very important aspect, this is I have taken from my colleague in German International Cooperation, who was with whom we are analyzing the hierarchy of plans. Like, because whenever we say we make a master plan in isolation without looking at the hinterland, the regional aspect that I was showing the case of Bhopal, so the hierarchy of this planning structure is not well established. As a result, the peripheral happens that outgrowth is not manageable in the present framework that we are looking at it. And this is a common misconception, because any city, as you look at, there are three major levers or three major functions. There is a governance function, there is a planning function, and there is a management function. And management functions, which are more day-to-day, those are, daily service provision and other. So there is seemingly overlap and lack of understanding what is this spatial planning as a tool, how to ensure safety and security of our urban areas, not only the urban areas, including the peripheral aspects. Lastly, there is a very important initiative by Government of India, which is called sub-scheme under Amrut, which has initiated two very important aspects to respond this physical manifestation of urbanization in India. One is local area plan, but this local area plan is slightly different than what you understand. Many of you, those of you joining here from Delhi local area plans are slightly differently structured, but here the local area plans are redevelopment, rejuvenation of older planned areas, core city areas, and that aspect. And the second is about the urban expansion areas, peripheric growth, because the moment we draw a planning boundary, the growth start triggering, and this is very common in most Indian cities. When I was a few days ago, I was looking at some spatial planning structure in Cardiff. The moment that they draw the boundary, majority of the developers start working within that boundary. And in India, it happens other way around. The moment we draw a planning boundary, whatever assessment, the development and growth starts triggering outside the boundary. And all of you know why it is, because of the regulation, cost, and so on and so forth. These two tools, that one is local area plan and another is town planning schemes, which has showing some promise in managing this peripheral expansion. For example, this is the city of Ahmedabad, which is originally we are about 200 square kilometer. Now, over past 20 years, we have added close to another 200 square kilometer. But it gives certain sense of direction, because a master plan is, or a development plan is a tool at a very large scale, at a very city scale. And then we also need to have a regional scale, which is non-existent in most state of planning acts and regulation. And below the master plan, to translate the master plan to the ground, some state use something called zonal development plan. I think Delhi uses the same term. But other states are using something called town planning schemes and local area plan. And this is showing a lot of promise in providing a kind of a direction. Because these urban abadis, those peripheral abadi villages, otherwise will engulf with a lot of development without access to basic services, without access to, their water bodies get, translated for urban development and so on and so forth. So what I wanted to actually bring forth to this August gathering today is that we have to seriously start, investigating, looking at more and more spatial planning, which is statutory in nature, tools to safeguard our peripheries. The growth which is spilling over, the development, because as I said that most of our cities, if you look at geospatially, we are adding close to 30-40 square kilometer every year. And much of this is coming from a good natural areas, good groundwater recharge areas, agriculture, forestry, and so on and so forth. So our plan Like we know in many ecological setup, we make core area and buffer area. We need to actually put our thoughts together that not only planning the city, how we also manage our periphery through good spatial planning framework. So thank you very much for inviting me today. Uh, I mean, my apologies for digressing the topic a bit from urban villages to peripheral villages, but I think this is very important when you are looking at the sustainability and resilience aspect of our cities, particularly if you really want to ensure localization of sustainable development goal, SDG 11 to safe, inclusive, and resilience in our cities, we have to look beyond our municipal boundary, manage the peri-urbanization much better, what we call peri-scene development. And most of the cities, like coastal cities, this is absolutely important. Cities like Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, and all other cities. So thank you. I'm also sharing my email ID or mobile number if anyone would like to reach out to me. Thank you, and over to you, Manju and colleagues.
Thank you, Saswat sir. It has been quite an enriching presentation from you. Not only you highlighted the urbanization issues, challenges, but also the climate challenges we are facing due to this rapid sort of urbanization, which sometimes we are not able to, we are grappling with, but we're not able to, don't have any control over it. And I think the urbanization is happening faster than the services and other things can catch up with. And also, very importantly, you highlighted the fact that the distinction between the plans and the process of plan making and the functionalities between urban governance, urban management, and urban planning, and the issues involved in them, as well as the integrated aspect where certain things collide with each other rather